Su Jinhwan looked at the man in front of her, who was nervous for her in surprise. It was actually him. She had thought that she would never see him again in this life, but she didn't expect to meet him again so soon. She quickly stepped forward, her eyes red, and pretended to be sad and said, "Sister, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Su Jinhwan withdrew her hand from Huo Lichen and said disdainfully, "Whether it was intentional or unintentional, only you know." "Sister, I really didn't mean it. If you don't believe me, you can hit me." Su Qingwan raised her face, tears welling up in her eyes, looking pitiful. Su Jinhwan narrowed his eyes, then raised his uninjured hand and slapped her face hard. There was a crisp sound. Plock! Su Qingwan was stunned by the slap. She was just pretending, sure that she wouldn't dare to hit herself in front of so many people. Tears of grievance instantly burst out of her eyes, and she cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Madame Su exploded and screamed sharply, "Jinhwan, you are crazy! Qingwan has already apologized to you. She didn't mean it. You still hit her. Are you a human being? Jinhwan, you've gone too far." Su Zhenxiang was also shocked by her ruthlessness. "She put her face close to me and begged me to hit her. I just did what she wanted." Su Jinhwan looked at him frankly and proudly. This girl. Seeing Su Jinhwan's courage, Huo Lichen smiled. "Dad, I really need this money. I don't want to fall out with you, but if necessary, I will take legal action." She had read the relevant documents and there was no clause about suspending payment. Mrs. Su immediately took advantage of the situation and said sarcastically, "Master, look at the good daughter you gave birth to, and she wants to sue you." Su Zhenxiang was so angry that his face turned blue and his heart ached. Considering that there were outsiders present, he held his breath and said, "You unfilial daughter, I am doing this for your own good. I will have someone transfer this month's money to you. Starting next month, you must be self-reliant." Now they could only walk step by step. Su Jinhwan took off his coat, looked at the coffee stains on it, looked at Huo Lichen and said apologetically, "Sorry, I made your coat dirty. I will wash it and return it to you." After that, he bowed slightly, turned around, and left. The coat Su Jinhwan was wearing turned out to be Huo Lichen's. Su Zhenxiang and Mrs. Su beside her was stunned. Su Zhenxiang was surprised. "Mr. Huo, do you know my daughter Jinhwan?" An elegant curve appeared on Huo Lichen's sexy lips. "Just close friends." Close friends? These three words are too ambiguous. At this time, the maid came running back with the burn ointment. "Mr. Huo, this is the burn ointment you requested." Huo Lichen took the burn ointment from the maid, spread his long legs, and quickly chased after him. Looking at the scene in front of her, Su Qingwan's inner jealousy was like a wild creeper. She tried every means to show her favor to the man, but he didn't even look at her. Su Qingwan, who was already jealous to the point of madness, covered her beaten cheek with her hand, with resentment and viciousness in her eyes. "Su Jinhwan, you bitch! Don't think that just because you've slept with Mr. Huo, he's yours. From childhood to adulthood, there is nothing I cannot get as long as I want it." Su Qingwan clenched her fists, feeling extremely jealous. Su Jinhwan sneezed as soon as she returned to the room. When she was about to close the door, a strong male hand pressed against the door. She was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect him to follow her. She stared at him. "What do you want to do?" Huo Lichen raised the burn ointment in his hand and a teasing smile appeared on his lips. "What else do you think I can do in your house?" Su Jinhwan's face flushed and her heart felt strangely hot. She bit her lower lip slightly and stretched out her hand to him. "Just give me the burn ointment." The man's dark eyes were like a deep pool, flashing with an obscure depth, and his deep voice was overbearing and could not be refused. "I will help you." "No!" Before Su Jinhwan could finish her refusal, the domineering man had already kicked open the door and walked into her boudoir. She stared at him and said angrily, "Has anyone ever told you that you are domineering?" Huo Lichen's gaze, as deep as a cold pond, fell on her angry face and the corners of his lips curved slightly. "I am domineering depending on the person. Not everyone is worthy of his domineering treatment." Su Jinhuan's mouth twitched slightly. It seems that I am too unlucky. Huo Lichen came in front of her, and the strong masculine scent instantly lingered in her nostrils, making her subconsciously step back. The man's strong arms wrapped around her waist and with a little force let her fall into his arms. Huo Lichen's fiery eyes swept across her alluring red lips. It should be said that it is your honor. She stared at him with her messy eyes wide open. You... After a crazy night, her face, which had not had time to wash and tidy up, was messy with a touch of sexy laziness, and her bright and clear eyes were shining, captivating. "Let me go now, bastard! Let me go!" He suppressed the excitement that was easily aroused by her, picked her up, and walked inside. As the eldest daughter of the Su family, the decoration of her boudoir was very simple. There was not a single valuable thing in it. The huge space seemed a bit empty and deserted. "You! What do you want to do?" Su Jinhuan's panicked eyes swept across the big bed in the room, and he was immediately horrified. She clenched her fists and punched him in frustration. This was the Su family, and he was her father's guest. Who knows, there might be someone outside who was watching her with a covetous eye. How could he... Huo Lichen easily grabbed her wrist, came to the bed, gently put her on the bed, leaned over, and domineeringly trapped her in his arms with his hands on both sides of her body. His dark and deep black eyes ignited bright flames, and his low voice was full of charming teasing. "What do you think I want to do?" "Bastard, don't mess around. I'm warning you, I will be rude to you." He was not only overbearing, but also arrogant. Su Jinhuan gasped in shock and supported his chest with her hands, trying to distance herself from him. However, the man's arms suddenly tightened, and her soft body slammed into the man's strong and powerful body. The force of the collision made her mind waver and her legs go weak. "I'm really looking forward to how you'll be rude to me." The man let out a deep and rich laugh as if mocking her arrogance. His hot palm slid down her arm and grabbed her scalded hand. Su Jinhuan's heartbeat was out of control and her cheeks were hot. This extremely ambiguous atmosphere made her whole body numb. She wanted to be fierce to him, but her tone became uncontrollably gentle, as if she was acting coquettishly. The back of her soft and white hand was burned red by the coffee. A hint of anger flashed in his eyes. "If anyone dares to do this to you again, I will never let her go." It turned out to be just applying ointment, but it made me feel like I was going to... He picked up the burn ointment and gently applied it on the back of her hand with his powerful fingertips. Su Jinhuan looked at him, applying medicine on her with pity, and suddenly her heart felt like it was hit hard by something. Damn, this beast is actually very handsome when he is serious. Su Qingwan stood at the door, looking at the ambiguous scene of Su Jinhuan lying on the bed and Huo Lichen leaning over to apply medicine to her. She clenched her fist tightly, and the jealousy in her heart was burning fiercely. "Why? That's Master Huo. I should be his wife." The Huo family is the most prestigious, wealthy family in Yuncheng. The Huo family's industries are spread all over the world, and their financial resources are strong enough to rival a country. Huo Lichen is the only heir. As long as she marries him, she will be the first lady of Yuncheng with a net worth of hundreds of billions. When she saw him for the first time, she had made up her mind to marry him. She would never allow anyone to block her future. Anyone who blocks her will die. Huo Lichen reached out and gently stroked her cheek, whispering, "You've been tired all night. You should be sleepy. Have a good rest." "Stop talking." Thinking of that crazy night, Su Jinhuan's face turned red again. If they didn't mention it, they could still chat happily. "I have something else to do at the company, so I'm leaving." Huo Lichen stood up. His tall and strong figure exuded a powerful and domineering aura that was dazzling. Okay, work is important." Su Jinhuan almost couldn't help but cheer. His presence was so strong that it made her feel uncomfortable all over. This woman. Seeing the fleeting joy in her eyes, Huo Lichen doubted his own charm for the first time in his life. He narrowed his black eyes in a bit of annoyance and walked towards the door. He finally left. His tall and strong figure exuded a powerful and domineering aura that was dazzling. Su Jinhuan had just breathed a sigh of relief when the man who had walked to the door suddenly stopped. "Huh? Stopped?" Su Jinhuan's expression immediately became awkward. She tried to cover it up by laughing. "Anything else?" The man who had walked to the door suddenly stopped, turned around, and stared at her relaxed expression with his fiery eyes. "Huo Lichen." The man's sharp eyes, like a deep pool, caught her embarrassed look and said softly, "My name." Huo Lichin, such a familiar name. Where have I heard it before?